Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Happy New Year, happy February, and welcome to the Canal Corporation headquarters offices and the 10th floor of 30 South Pearl Street, which is also the NYPA Albany boardroom. And we are here for meeting number 111, New York State Canal Recreationway Commission. I'm Brian Stratton, acting chair of the Canal Commission, Canal Recreationway Commission. And Kim, is that camera going to zoom in so they can see me? Okay, good. Winter is upon us here at Canals, and it certainly is upon everyone throughout the Northeast today as we are in the grips of a wind chill advisory and extreme weather. We're going to be talking a little bit about that at the beginning of today's meeting. And although we are well underway, also with 8 pump outs along the canal ongoing right now, our crews thankfully are not outside today. We are going to shift some of our attention to inside duties and then resume outside when the weather warms back up. And by all accounts, when the cold snap is supposed to be short-lived. We are not quite back together all in person today, but we do have we have 2 commissioners with us here at the table, and we have several more on screen. So we do have a quorum, and we are delighted to have you with us. And as is the norm, we're going to go around the room and introduce ourselves shortly and allow the people who are joining us, who are both commissioners, agency representatives, and regional planning executives, to introduce themselves. Let's begin, as we always do, with an explanation of what the CRC is. If you're just tuning in for the first time, it's always good to know what the history of the Canal Recreationway Commission is. The Canal Recreationway Commission (CRC) was created by the New York State Legislature in 1992 under the specific section of Canal Law to, number 1, develop and oversee the Canal Recreationway Plan, and number 2, to advise the Canal Corporation and NYPA, our parent organization, the New York Power Authority, on canal related issues. We are comprised of 24 members. There are 14 voting members, 10 involved in canal use, development, preservation, enhancement, and local governments from counties adjacent to or intersected by the canal system. And more information about the CRC can be found at the Canal Corporation's website, www.canals.ny.gov. Today's agenda will be focused on winter work ongoing and planned for the remainder of the 2023 winter season. And then we're going to be talking about our opening date, and we do have a special presentation at the beginning. There are no property items scheduled today. Somebody said that it would be a cold day in February when we did not have a property item on the agenda. Well, today is cold. It's very, very cold. We'll be talking about that. So no property items. Let me just give you a rundown before we get to introductions of what we are going to hear from today. We're going to begin with a safety talk, and then we're going to go into a very exciting presentation from our good friends at the New York State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation on the stabilization project of the 1841 enlarged Erie Canal Aqueduct crossing the Schoharie Creek in Montgomery County. Hello, Commissioner Patorti. Thank you for joining us. We'll get to you in just a second. So we're excited to hear about that. Then I will be giving you an update on our plans that are moving forward for the 2025 World Canals Conference coming to Buffalo in September of 2025, which will be here before we know it. And we will receive a canal operations update from Dave Mellon and talk about the opportunity for all of you to come outside when it gets a little bit warmer and join us for one of our pump out tours. Communication Strategy Manager Shane Bahar is here, and he will be talking about opening day on the canal and also ad lib some information
facts.
on the canals. We want to know what on the canals tours have been postponed because of the weather, but we will get to that. Finally, Executive Deputy Director Rebecca Hughes is here, and she will be providing an update on our aquatic invasive species, AIS. They're all sleeping now in the frozen water, but when it thaws out, they'll be of concern. And we are also delighted to be joined today by one of our trustees, trustee of the New York Power Authority, B. Gonzalez. Wave, B, so people can see you. Thank you, B, for being with us. We are always delighted to have you with us. It's always great to have you here in person, but we're so glad that you're engaged and with us, and we look forward to your guidance and your expertise as we continue to discuss the items that we have to do. So with that, let's begin with our introductions, and we'll go around the room here around the big table first, then on the outside of the table, then we'll go to the people that are on the screen. And again, my name is Brian Stratton. I am the Director of the Canal Corporation and the acting chair of the CRC. And so
And I was like, Maureen and I are here and this one and that one. And I'm like, I don't.
If everybody can mute, I'm sorry, everybody who's on the screen, if you could mute, please, until we need you to speak. And that would be great. And then if people who are at the table and here in the room could take the opportunity to mute their phones, that would also be great. So mute your devices, please. Okay, to my left. No, Rebecca.
Good afternoon, Rebecca Hughes, Executive Deputy Director for the Canals.
Hi, everyone, Shane Mahar, Communications Strategy Manager, Press Officer for Nightboat Canals.
Good afternoon. I'm Pete Casper, Principal Attorney with Nightboat Canal.
Steve Iaquetta, retired professional planner, commissioner residing.
Oh,
Kristen Lake, Luck, 6 and 7. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm Ross Levi. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Division of Tourism and a Vice President at Empire State Development.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Banks. I'm the Historic Site Manager at Schoharie Crossing State Historic Site.
Hotel Night by G.
Glad you're here. My name is Dave Brooks. I work at Schoharie Crossing as the Education Director.
Francis Vittori, Lot 12, Whitehall, New York.
Doug Cole, professional engineer residing in Schenectady County.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dave Mellon, Regional Manager for the Canal Corporation.
Mike, we'll throw it back to you.
Mike Sullivan, I'm with Canals Government Community Relations.
Nick Belson, also with Government and Community Relations for Canal Corp.
Joelle McPherson, same as Nick. I'm in the Central New York.
Jake.
Jackie Schillinger, same as Joelle and Nick for the Eastern region.
Elizabeth McAndrew, Canals DEI Project Coordinator. Good afternoon, everyone.
Kim Morpello, Special Assistant to the Director.
Jay Focanis, Senior Project Engineer with Reimagine the Canal Initiative.
Okay, we thank you very much for the folks that are in the room. Now we'll go to the people that are on the screen, and I'm going to call on our commissioners that are signing in virtually, and I'll go to the upper left-hand corner of my screen and call on Commissioner Dan Wiles. Dan, can you unmute and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Dan Wiles. I'm the manager of the Port Byron Old Erie Canal Heritage Park, a long-term member of the CRC and resident agitator.
Agitator, very good. All right, seated next. Okay, mute again so you don't agitate it just yet. Seated next to Dan is Commissioner Ken Roller. Ken, say hello from Orleans County.
Yes, good afternoon on this cold afternoon. Pleasure to be with you. CRC from Orleans County.
Thank you. Commissioner Natalie Stetson from the Erie Canal Museum.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Natalie Stetson. I am the Executive Director of the Erie Canal Museum and the newest member of the CRC still.
Thank you, Natalie. It's wonderful to have you with us. Trustee Gonzalez. B, would you say hello, please? You're muted, B.
Oh, hold on.
There you go.
No, you're good.
Hello, good to see everybody. And yes, it is cold in Syracuse as well.
Thank you, B. It's wonderful to have you with us. Michelle Bernard is on screen somewhere. In that,
Yep, somewhere. I don't see me either, but that's okay.
There you are. I see you.
I'm unmuted, and Michelle Venard from Albany, Rensselaer County as well, and also part of Canal, New York, Board of Directors as well as the CRC. And it's good to see you all there.
Thank you, Michelle. It's wonderful to see you, and we have saved a sandwich for you, so you can pick it up at your pleasure. Probably in the warmest spot, on the grid is Cal Wysakowski coming in from, I believe, Myrtle Beach. Cal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yep, it's a balmy 55 here and sunny in South Carolina. Good to be with you. Good to see all of you, although I do not miss the single-digit weather at all. CRC Commissioner, and also with the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor Commission. I'm chairing that organization right now. Lots going on.
Very good, Commissioner. Thank you very much. That completes the commissioners, I believe, that are on screen. I'm going to go to the agency representatives, and I'll begin with Fred Bond. Fred.
I don't know what. It's 80 degrees and balmy and sunny here in Trumansburg. I don't know what. No, happy and healthy here in the Finger Lakes. Fred Bond, Regional Director for the Finger Lakes State Park System, based out of Trumansburg. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. We have your colleagues here who have shown up, and we're well represented today by Parks. Paul Byer from the Department of State.
Yes, hello, everybody. Paul Byer, Smart Growth Director, representing Department of State, and Secretary of State, Robert Rodriguez.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. Laura DeBetta from DEC.
Hi, everybody. Laura DeBetta, Director of Outdoor Recreation for the Department of Environmental Conservation and representing Commissioner Sagos.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Laura. We were hoping that you would be here today since we're in Albany, but we'll save a sandwich for you also.
A little blustery out there, but yes, apologies.
It's a short walk. It's cold. Peter Wiles.
Hi, Peter Wiles. I am actually with the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor Commission as well, Commissioner, and I'm on the Board of Directors of Canal, New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Kim Vorsheimer. We'll have plenty of time to talk at the end, but if you just want to say hello, that would be great.
Yes, hi, Kim Vorsheimer from SK Yards, a working facility on the Erie Canal system for 50 years.
Wonderful. Who else have we got who would like to say hello? Oh, Andy Kitzman is down below from the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. Andy, say hello.
Hello, Brian, and it's nice to see Erie Canalway so represented here. So great group of folks. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I think Bob is supposed to be on. Is that correct?
He was planning it. I don't know if he's on yet, though, but he was planning on joining.
I'm here.
Oh, there's Bob.
So I'm checking in from, I'm Bob Radliff, Executive Director of the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor, and report and I'm accountable to half the people on this call. And I'm calling in from the wonderful town of Stillwater on the Champlain Canal.
Thank you very much, Bob. Do we have our regional planning executives on the phone? Mark.
Hey, everyone. Mark Castiglione, Capital District Regional Planning Commission. I must confess, I am also in the city of Albany and did not attend in person. Too cold out there.
All right, who else? Is that Kate Morrison in the corner, or is that someone who looks like Kate? Next to Laura, in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay. Who? Jean.
Hi there.
Jean,
Hi, everybody.
say hello.
Jeannie.
Jeannie Gleisner,
Jeannie Gleiser.
Um,
Okay, sorry, Jeannie.
Program Manager from the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board, Community Planning and Development. Glad to be here.
All right. Sharon Layton, our former colleague and happy retiree, is in the upper square. Say hello, Sharon.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Former Director of Community and Economic Development for the Canal Corporation and currently assisting the team preparing for WCC 25 in Buffalo.
Thank you, Sharon. We're going to be talking about more about what you're doing to help us get ready for 2025 when we get into that report from Bob and myself. Is there anyone else that I have not mentioned or would like to introduce themselves? Okay. Well, put yourselves all back on mute and we will go into the program if you would. That would be great. Thank you. I am informed that we have a quorum. Is that correct, Kim? We do have a quorum. So meeting number 111 is well underway. We're going to begin our meeting with a safety talk because as we normally do within all of our meetings, we begin with a safety talk, but we are in an extreme weather period right now, and it is worthy to remind everyone of the dangers of extreme weather. So we do have an extreme wind chill that is statewide. And then the governor has put out a press release about preparing for the winter weather. Let's take a look at the map. If you can see that map, I can't see it, but if you can see it, I have a printed out copy here. You can see just how cold the temperatures are, ranging from anywhere from -53. These are the expected wind chills from midnight tonight through noon tomorrow. Expected wind chill in Lake Placid is -53. Albany will be -42. And then our friends out in Western New York get a little break. It's going to be a balmy -9 there. So the further west you go, the warmer it gets. But these are all very extreme wind chills. And of course, there is a lot of wind and it's nothing to be taken lightly. So we put this out for your benefit to remind you to dress accordingly and to prepare accordingly and to limit your outside travel unless you really want to be outside. Okay, let's look at the next slide, Kim. Here's how we dress for winter weather. Depending upon weather in your area, it could be chilly, cold, or extreme cold. Moms and dads, this is probably a good guide for putting your kids out to the bus stop. But it looks like layers are the norm. So I would say here in the capital region, we're probably on the extreme cold side. And maybe Buffalo, Nick, is probably on the chilly side, right?
It's a beautiful -9.
Only -9. So there are from NOAA and from the National Weather Service, there are the tips. Cal, I don't have the forecast for you, but I understand that Myrtle Beach has got a projected wind chill tomorrow of 73 degrees. So the bikini is what you want to dress in tomorrow, not this. Too much information. Okay, go on. Let's don't forget about the pets and make sure that your pets are well provided for during this extreme cold. Keep them warm and dry, provide plenty of food and water, and when outside, although I don't think your pet should be outside tonight, all of you with pets, please keep them inside. Keep them bundled up, limit outside time, and thoroughly clean, including their paws when you bring them in. And there's a happy dog to tell the tale of winter weather. So that concludes our safety talk. Here is the agenda, and we're going to begin with a very exciting topic, and that is a presentation from the New York State Department of Parks and Historic Preservation on the Schoharie Crossing site update. And I am happy to introduce Paul Banks. Back up. No. Are we doing that? Yes. Paul Banks, manager of the Schoharie Crossing Historic Site in Fort Hunter, to provide us with an overview of the stabilization project for the aqueduct. Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Banks.
Brian said, I'm the site manager. With me today is David Brooks, the education director at Schoharie Crossing State Historic Site. And we do have exciting news because decades in the making, we are stabilizing our aqueduct. And the image you can see here is the aqueduct stretching out towards the east from the west bank of Schoharie Creek just before it enters into the Mohawk River. This was one of the major engineering projects of the enlarged Erie Canal. And next slide, please. You can see here one of the images of the canal from upstream when it was in operation. You can make out the piers that came out that supported the trunk and whatnot. You can make out the dam that was just upstream, which helped control the water flow. And this was 1864, so this is when the canal is really raking in the revenue. If you wonder how we became the Empire State and Wall Street became the financial capital of the world, well, you're looking at a small piece of that. It was the Erie Canal. It not only opened up the entire basin of the Great Lakes to commerce, it allowed for a massive amount of immigration out west. Of course, the more people that went out west, the more commodities that came east. How did it come east? Came east on the canal. And the original canal was so successful that it was quickly outgrown. And even before the entire original Erie Canal was completed, the profits coming off the sections that were open made it clear that this was a good idea. And it didn't take long for them to realize that they needed to expand the capacity of the canal. So it went from 4 foot deep, 40 foot wide to 7 foot deep, 70 foot wide. And they overcame some of the major obstacles to commerce in season on the canal by creating a number of aqueducts in places. And next slide, please. The builder of this canal was Otis Eddy. And this stone still rests right at the end of Arch 6 on the canal. It's part of what we are preserving. And the canal was, I'm sorry, the creek was a major impediment during the original canal for commerce, because a few times a year, Schoharie Creek would flood. And that meant all the traffic on the canal in both directions came to a stop. And it was, even in good weather, the slack water crossing for the original canal was something dreaded by canal boat captains. So they recognized the need for an aqueduct across the creek. Next slide, please. And made that a reality. Not that there weren't still issues even then, but of course, in the wintertime, the canal was not in operation, but the aqueduct had to deal with Schoharie Creek, which has never been an easy thing. You can see one of the larger ice jams on the creek. And of course, the two people standing on one of the trunk platforms gives you a good idea of the perspective here. Massive amounts of ice piling up against it. And what I like about the photo on the left is you can actually see the trough that the canal boats would run through. Next slide, please. And from here, you can see that railing out on the left, which is, of course, part of the wooden trough. And you can see the canal in action with a team pulling a packet boat through the canal. And the canal was in operation from 1845 to, I think, around 1916. That's when they actually pulled the trough down. The trough had many repairs over the years due to ice flows busting into the underside and whatnot. And the Canal Corporation in its day did a great job of keeping it in operations in season. Next slide, please. So here you can see the entire canal in the early 20th century. And it's built in the Roman arch style. This is old technology. It's existed since the time of the Romans. There are still aqueducts in Europe built by the Romans that are in operation. And of course, this one was not carrying water to a population that needed the water. It was carrying commerce. And so once the modern barge canal was in operation, they no longer needed this one as a means of commerce, but it still remained a bridge from Fort Hunter to the what had become a popular recreation area on the west side of the creek. Next slide, please. And there was a lot of recreation over on the west side, as there still is today, even before the state of New York bought the property on the west side of the creek. There was a bathhouse. People would walk over the canal from Fort Hunter and recreate over there, which I thought was important to point out since this is the Canal Recreationway Commission. Of course, it's still quite popular. It's the most popular part of Schoharie Crossing State Historic Site is the Aqueduct picnic area. Next slide, please. And so there was an earlier stabilization carried out on the aqueduct. And you can see in the lower right-hand corner, just above the image of us in the room, you can see the gabions, the cages filled with rocks to help prevent scouring around the base, the foundation of one of the piers. But it was actually much earlier than the 1970s when the aqueduct started to fail structurally. They lost some sections in, we think either around the late 1930s. By 1941, sections of the aqueduct that were in the creek were causing ice jams to become worse. And so there was actually a demolition of a number of arches. And next slide, please. And then the stabilization from the late 70s and early 80s did a great job until 1998 when the seventh arch collapsed. And so you can see not only the collapse onto the gabion, but some of the wires coming down that had been holding that arch in place. Next arch, please. So they started looking at another stabilization. So this has been decades in the making. And you can see the aerial view with the overlay of the current project. There is a road coming from the parking lot in the lower left-hand corner. It is actually a plank road. There are these big wooden timbers laid side by side all the way out to the diagonally striped area there, just to the side of the aqueduct in the end of Pier 6, which is the last, I'm sorry, Arch 6, which is the last standing arch. And they are working in that area. And if we'll go to the next slide, please, you can get a better idea what they're doing. The top schematic is the elevation showing the arches 5 and 6 from the side. And in the far left, the remnants of Arch 7. And so under Arch 5, they have placed anti-scouring measures to keep the creek from undermining the foundation there. Then in Arch 6, we currently have not only anti-scouring protections, but that diagonally striped area shows where scaffolding has been put in place to hold that arch up. And then, of course, the real focus of the work is on the left, where you can see the jumble of stones at the end of the Pier 6. And you may notice that there are pilings going into the ground that look like the stakes going down, the 4 stakes on each of the piers. And then to the left, there's one additional piling going down. Well, that's the test piling, which they poured this week. The project is on schedule. It's doing great. We've had some wonderful weather. In fact, I heard that the engineering team was out there today putting the casings down into the holes. And once they get the test results after about a week of cure on that one test piling, they will then either recalibrate their mixture or they will begin pouring the other pilings. And those pilings are going to be holding in place the plan you see down below, the thrust block plan, the bottom half of this image. That is a giant piece of cement that will sit up against the end of Pier 6 and provide what is basically, if you think of the remaining aqueduct as a number of books that you want to keep upright, the thrust block is the bookend. It will be anchored in the ground and it will hold up the remains of the aqueduct until the next stabilization project comes along. Next slide, please. We're also doing repointing work. There are some, in many places, there is original masonry, as well as unfortunately a lot of Portland cement that was used to grout the joints. And we're not really focused on that. You can see in the lower right-hand corner, what we're focused on in the repointing is to take care of the places where there are intrusions from various plants where there is no grout, to take out the plants, which they've actually already started doing. And then in the spring or whenever it's above 40 degrees for a consistent period of time, they will start repointing all the masonry that's needed on the aqueduct. Next slide, please. And so here you see a couple images showing the work. You can see the 6th arch there with the scaffolding in it. And that is not daylight you see above the scaffolding. That is an insulating material that the scaffolding was jacked up to hold that pier in place. And then in the picture on the right, you can not only see some of the scaffolding, you can see a giant iron plate being held in place with an I-beam on top of Pier 6, which not only holds the stones at the end of the pier in place, but also provides protection to the workers below from any falling debris. And then the excavator you see there, the Komatsu that you can see the label of in the pit there is, at the time this photo was taken, they were getting down to the level where they were going to start drilling the pilings. And so the project so far has gone extremely well. I talked to a number of people in the construction crews. I talked to them a couple times a week. Sylvester, the construction foreman there, is very happy with the work that's going on. And they expect to finish major operations by the time the canal is going to be rewatered in mid-May. And then all the rest of the work and the remediation and whatnot should be done. They have till the end of July. They're hoping it doesn't take them that long. Next slide, please. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you at Schoharie Crossing State Historic Site. While our museum doesn't have regular hours in the wintertime, anytime you'd like to come out, just give us a call or email or text or however you want to reach us. We'd be happy to give you a tour, site visit, whatever you like. Are there any questions?
Paul, thank you very much. That's a great presentation. That just to clarify, there are 6 arches remaining. Arch number 7 is the one that's most recently collapsed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many were there originally? Did I count?
14.
14.
Yeah, or 14 arches.
So basically, on the eastern side is where they intentionally demolished the aqueduct in the 1830s, 1840s because of ice jams. Correct?
No,
1941.
They took out the 4 piers on the far eastern side. One of them had already failed. That was the main part of the channel. There was already a lot of scouring undermining those anyway.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Cal.
Hi, this is Cal. What's the cost for this project so far?
I don't have a running total so far. I know that the whole project, I've seen around 1.3 billion. I've seen up to million, and I've seen up to 1.7 million. So it looks
Okay.
like it's, I don't really talk about costs. That's kind of above my pay grade, but I have found out enough to know that right now they're looking at about 1.3.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Paul, if I can ask also on the stabilization project, once that's done, what public benefit does that bring to visitors coming out to the aqueduct? Will they be able to walk out on the towpath then?
We're starting to realize that's luckily not the $1 million question, but it is the question that everyone keeps asking.
Right.
And if you go back, is it possible to go back to the picture of the towpath in operation with the team pulling a packet boat? It's right in the middle of the deck. So you can see on the right side, there's a wall.
Right.
That wall's still there.
Right.
And there would need to be some kind of railing on the left side and on the end in order to do that. And my boss, Brian Strasovich, was actually on site this week. And we were talking about that very thing because we hadn't really looked at that. There'd been a lot of talk about that. And now there's even more. And of course, no one's making any promises, but I'm going to have annual strategic planning meeting with Brian, Elaine, and the new historic site regional supervisor, Lisa Pole. I'm going to do that here in just a few weeks. And I'm going to suggest that we need to figure that out because it's on everyone's mind at this point. And not only for the iconic views, not only for the novelty of being able to go out there, but even for, simple recreation, like people wanting to toss a line off of there and fish.
Right.
Half our clientele fish from bass boats, but the other half fish from the bank. And it'd be wonderful if they could fish from the end of that pier.
In that photo, you see the outer wooden area. That's on the outboard side of the trough though, right?
Correct. Yeah, there was a small heel path on the outboard side of the trough.
Okay.
Like where the gentlemen were standing in the ice flow picture, the couple before this, that was all on the upstream side.
I know you have yours blocked off, your path, because I've been out there. You have a fence there, but the aqueduct that crosses the Seneca River is not blocked off. You can actually walk out on that, which is a much more level, stable platform and probably several more arches than what you have there. But it is a cool thing to be able to walk out on it. And then
even
beyond
Camillus on 9 Mile Creek.
Pardon me?
Camillus at 9 Mile Creek is you can walk out on it. It's troughed. They've rebuilt it.
That's right. We've been out there. That's a great spot. So beyond that, beyond stabilization, would there be any undertaking to reconstruct arch number 7 or any other arches to put it back together?
I was told that I don't even want to ask what that would cost.
That's the B word, right? That's the billions.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that it would increase the cost exponentially just to rebuild Arch 7.
How much did the state pay Otis Eddy in 1841 to build that?
About 178,000 altogether. It took a little while for that final payment. It was actually after he passed away that his widow was able to receive the final funds.
So I think we have time. The story of the guy that built the aqueduct, Otis Eddy, who wants to tell the 2-minute version of that?
I'll let David tell that
The
story.
2-minute version of Otis Eddy. So Otis Eddy was born in Rhode Island in 1787 and moved with his family to just outside of Ithaca. Became a very entrepreneuring man with a shirtings mill, so textiles, and also a paper manufacturing company. If you're familiar with Cornell University and the Eddy Gate in the Eddyville area, which is now incorporated in Ithaca, that's because of his mills on the falls there. He actually gave Ezra Cornell his first legit job type job. working in his as a machinist. We all hopefully know Ezra Cornell is the man that founded Cornell University, as well as worked with Samuel Morse and the telegraph company. But Otis Eddy, late 1830s economic recession, his businesses weren't doing quite so well. And that's probably why when 1838, when New York State put out the contract bid to build the Schoharie Creek Aqueduct as far away as Virginia, that a man from Ithaca was awarded that contract and began construction 1839 to build the aqueduct that bears his name, that Otis Eddy Stone. It's reportedly the only canal feature that he ever built. He ran a little bit over on time, but the commissioners at the time said that was okay because of the stop and tax law and the other funding issues. So while it was supposed to be completed in 1840, it was fully completed in December of 1841. They didn't actually start using it until 1845, which happened to be about 2 years after he passed away. So we never actually got to see the aqueduct in use.
Do you know why such a lag between completion and use?
There were during the enlargement, there was other sections that weren't completed on schedule. There's a lot of issues with funding and who's getting paid at that point in time, which is a whole other thing we probably don't want to get into. But
so 2 years from first brick to finishing.
Yeah, in the time that they finished it, yeah. And there was some gaps of being able to do the work because of pavement or weather conditions.
Immigrant labor helped build it?
There's only a little bit of information as far as the labor. It's mostly based on the cost of labor. There's a few names on the not on the contract, the Canal Commission Fund, but the labor is kind of sporadic, where it's like this guy's paid for a day or two, or that. So it could have been that they were immigrants or they were just people working on the local farms. You'd have to really kind of go through more the genealogical kind of exploration on that.
We have numbers. How many folks worked on it at one time?
It was just a few dozen, really. Yeah.
So he won the contract and he started the contract in 1839 and he was supposed to have it finished by 1840. Really, a 12-month period?
Yeah. So it was probably a tight timeline to begin with.
Yeah.
They probably could have put more resources and they might have been able to if they had the money to do it quicker and actually have it on schedule. But it was kind of ambitious. But that's just the Erie Canal anyway, right? It's an ambitious thing. Even to this day, what the work that you all do, whether it's recreation or just the operation and navigation, it's still pretty ambitious.
And the material locally sourced. Was the material locally sourced? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the stone for it, some of it potentially came from just the other side of the river up in Tribes Hill. There's a quarry, but there are some documents that do reference. There's a 1941 newspaper article that outlines a little bit about the construction of it, being only about 100 years distance from it. That talks about the Voorhees quarry, which is a little bit to the east where the stone was. So yeah, it all came pretty close.
Any pumice in the mortar? That's the success of the Roman aqueducts. There's pumice in the mortar mix.
Right. I know that there had been back in the 70s they did analysis on it. That's where they knew that there were certain layers of more modern cement where they had gone through probably in the early 20th century to repoint stuff. I don't know about the analysis so far, but
There was a sign of national significance. I just wanted to get that in.
Yeah,
We should
well, there was
really
that
commend
idea that
the work
the
that's
pumice, particularly with it almost kind of heals itself because the calcite stuff leaches and yeah, but you come underneath that. So if you come out and visit any time of the year, if you come out and let's say you paddle, this is a recreation committee. So if you want to get on the water and paddle underneath that Arch 6, or if you walk under different sections, you can see where some of that calcification is kind of coming through. You can look up and see the raw iron drain from the towpath. And the acoustics underneath that, even during the winter, are kind of interesting. But really come out with a kayak or canoe and you get underneath there like a lot of people do, and you have that experience of paddling under that arch, and the acoustics are cool. And you can paddle up in front of the visitor center and see a little bit of remnant of the dam, maybe, and where the original canal crossed through the creek. And if you're real lucky, like I've been able to a few times, you get the bald eagle that comes down and grabs a fish out of the water in front of you, and it's a pretty cool spot. As Paul alluded to, with it being a tourist recreation kind of spot, even right through like in the 40s, where there was a bathhouse there, just outside. But really, that whole area of the Mohawk Valley, you have the Orisville Shrine, and so there was these pilgrimages that would use the canal and things like the Kitty West passenger barge or the old kind of packet boat of the more modern era, and would take tourists to and from. There was actually a rail stop just for the Orisville Shrine, which is just a little bit to the west, and a lot of those folks would come down, they picnic near the aqueduct, or they would walk across it and come into Fort Hunter. So there's that recreation that people yeah, even before, I guess, the canal, we're going to be recreating in that way in some places, but it's really important to kind of keep that in mind, that we're just trying to continue what's been going on there for generations.
I have one more question. I noticed in the information that you sent that the wood from the aqueduct, when it was taken apart, was used to build the barge canal lock number 9. Is that?
Yeah. So
how was it used?
The aqueduct no longer was in service because the barge canal opening in the Mohawk River in different kind of sections. So in 1916, they removed the wooden trough, and we have a memo from the New York State DPW, essentially telling the contractor, if you want to remove any of that timber, you have to remove all of it. I'm super grateful to Craig Williams from Canal Society of sending over that for me, along with some images where they were actually removing the timbers. And it had gone out to Lock 9, probably to be used in some forms or a cofferdam situation while they were building in Rotterdam Junction. So, which has another cool tie, because that dam out there is the only one you can drive across, as well as the Tribes Hill Dam number 8. So when you make that drive, if you're not local and you make that drive, make that loop.
So some of that wood could still be out there.
Yeah,
In
could be
one
out
way or another, inside a form underneath one of it. That's very cool. All right, enough questions from me.
Hey, Director Stratton, I'm Director Stratton.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
FYI, I'm tracking a couple of questions in the chat. So there were a couple of questions that were thrown up during the presentation in the chat, if anybody can.
Kim, do you know how to look at the chat?
Maybe Bowman.
Bowman? Yes. Okay, we're gonna look at the chat. We also need to go back and approve the minutes from the last meeting, which I neglected to do in my excitement of going directly into the aqueduct presentation.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Everybody's reviewed, they've read, and they've digested, memorized. Yes, Ross?
I have one amendment to just, I already pointed out to Kim, I'm listed as a voting agency member, but in fact, ESD is not.
Okay. Let the record show that that Ross Levi is not a voting member. Although if it were up to us, you certainly would be. Because we need your vote and your support. Okay. A motion to move the acceptance of the minutes has been made.
This is Cal, I'll move it.
You're too late, Cal. Commissioner Patorte has already moved it, and Commissioner Iacetta has seconded it. So it's moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, this is Dan Wiles.
Go ahead.
I believe at the last meeting, there was some discussion about the bicentennial. And I believe I recommended that the bicentennial be an agenda item. And I would like that part of the record.
Well, let's move that to our next meeting, because we obviously don't have that in an extended format. We do have a report coming up very soon on the planning for the World Canals Conference. But we will amend the minutes to reflect that you had suggested a future agenda item on the bicentennial. Would that be fair?
That'd be fine. Yep.
As amended. Okay, any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor of accepting them as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No. And the motion carries. Thank you very much, commissioners, for your indulgence there. The questions on the chat are, Jeannie Gleiser would like to know, interesting that there remains a plank road at the aqueduct. What does that date to? What does the plank road?
Oh,
date
so
to?
the plank road was put in by the contractor for the construction. So it is not a,
Okay.
it is not a historic plank road. Sorry about that.
For
Oh,
the
I was so
stabilization.
excited.
Yes, specifically for the stabilization. Yeah. Yeah, we
Okay,
still
got it.
do have, parts of some of the earlier dams that are wood, that are exposed in the wintertime, that are certainly historic. And of course, parts of the foundation of some of the piers that are from the 1830s, but no plank roads that we know of. Sorry.
We're just gonna keep talking about this. Okay.
And in the rest of
Jeannie,
the
you
agenda.
need to get out there. get out there to see the whole place and
I
take it all.
absolutely do. It sounds
That was one.
amazing.
That was one question. Are there any more, Bum? That's it. Okay. All right. We've moved and approved the minutes. We've had that discussion. Thank you very much, folks from the from the New York State Department of Parks.
That's great.
Wonderful presentation. We're going to get out there and see it when the weather gets warmer. And I'm going to distribute all of your writings to all of my colleagues so that they can be infused with the same enthusiasm that I hold for this beautiful piece of canal infrastructure. Shame on you for not having it already. Okay, next up is an update on World Canals Conference. And Bob Radliff is on the screen with me, as is Sharon Layton, who is doing some work for Bob and helping us move forward on the World Canals Conference. And I would like to give commissioners and our representatives and all of our folks a preview of what's coming up, not a preview, but a progress report on what's coming up to plan for the World Canals Conference coming to Buffalo, September 21st through 25th. That's a Sunday through Thursday of 2025. Fabulous image here of Canal Side at the Buffalo waterfront and the beautiful arch bridge there. Wonderful place to visit. As you will remember, we announced during our summer meeting last year, my report from attending the 2022 World Canals Conference in Leipzig, Germany, that it was announced that Inland Waterways International had awarded the siting of the 2025 conference to New York State and to Buffalo and to North America. And it's an exciting time. So mark September 21st through 25th on your calendar. We have formed a steering committee, and the steering committee has been underway meeting. They have met twice, and it is led by Bob Radliff, Steve Vernally of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, Patrick Kaler of Visit Buffalo Niagara, and myself, Brian Stratton. Recently, we were in Buffalo, and we met with John Dandies, who is the corporate vice president of Rich Products, and John has eagerly agreed to volunteer and serve as our honorary chair. And if you know Buffalo and the Buffalo area, the Rich Company is a staple out in the Western New York area. In fact, Bill's Stadium, before it was Highmark Stadium, was Rich Stadium. So a well-known company, and John has been very active in the corporate world and in the philanthropic world. And we are very fortunate to have him working with us as we continue to build excitement and awareness, and most importantly, raise sponsorship and funds to host the 2025 World Canals Conference. The conference is going to be held. The host hotel will be the Hyatt Regency Buffalo, and that is undergoing an extensive renovation. We hope that will be complete by September of 2025. Beyond the steering committee, we have 3 subcommittees that are active and are already beginning to plan. The program committee, which will plan the entire program, the outreach and communications committee, and the important finance and fundraising committee. We're also going to be hosting a stakeholder and engagement meeting in May, and that will be coming up, and which will be getting the word out to our stakeholders to be able to meet with us to provide input for the content of the 2025 World Canals Conference. And I would like Bob Radliff, offer Bob the opportunity to be able to speak now and to fill in anything from your perspective, Bob.
Thank you, Brian, and that was a great summary. I would also note that Cal Wazakowski is on the steering committee representing the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. Sharon Layton, who is on the call today, has been hired as a consultant to help guide us, and Sharon was instrumental, as you may recall, in the 2017 successful conference in Syracuse. So we're very much looking forward to Sharon's guidance and the entire steering committee and all of you on this call to help us put forth a bookend bicentennial celebration, culmination, if you will, in Buffalo. Our partners there are very excited in Buffalo and Western New York. And your input will be instrumental there. And this is just only part of the equation, not only the conference itself, but there'll be pre-conference tours, post-conference tours, and lots of opportunities to engage with many of you in terms of planning and hosting the conference. So again, Brian, Rebecca, Sharon, myself, feel free to reach out to any of us with ideas, and you'll be hearing more about specific program content and the like in the near future. So thank you.
Very exciting. We hope we'd have Patrick and Steve join us at a future meeting to give us more details as we go forward. Bob, I thought it might be appropriate to ask maybe Sharon to fill us in on the stakeholder meeting that will be scheduled sometime in May. Sharon, do you want to speak about that?
We'll put together a list of stakeholders throughout the corridor. The meeting will be held in Buffalo. And we will be inviting all of the stakeholders to both be informed of how we envision the conference shaping up, but then to offer their input in terms of content and program development. We did this early on for the Syracuse conference as well. So we don't have a date yet, but that will be coming up. We do expect to do it in the Buffalo area in early May. So just stay tuned.
Very good. Thank you, Sharon. We will remind people that we last held the World Canals Conference here in New York at the beginning of the bicentennial kickoff period. It was in Syracuse in September of 2017. And during that conference, we attracted more than 400 attendees from 12 countries. Very exciting time, and we look forward to setting that as our goal to experience that kind of attendance and that kind of enthusiasm. And we know Buffalo's got a lot to offer, so we're looking forward to that. Any questions from our commissioners or others about the World Canals Conference planning thus far? Sharon and Bob, thank you very much. We look forward to joining you for our next meeting, and we look forward to commissioners to bringing you more information. That beautiful photograph is from John Witt Photography from Buffalo. Let's give credit to John. I have no idea. I haven't met John, but he's got a beautiful photo. So it makes you want to go to Buffalo. And of course, who doesn't want to go to Buffalo, especially this time of year? All right, let's go on to item number 6. And that is an operations update on winter maintenance. Once again, Canal's Regional Manager Dave Mellon is with us to provide an update on all of the winter work that is underway along our canal system, and that includes no fewer than 8 ongoing pump outs, work which is essential and intensive. But of course, we're taking a pause today during today's extreme winter weather, allowing our employees to catch up on their inside duties and then back out into the field. Dave, welcome. The floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Next slide, please. There we go. Okay, so just to start off with, we're coming off a very good year in terms of employee safety. And it really is the foundation of everything that we do. Okay, so there's been so much emphasis under the hood, so to speak, aimed at safety of the work that we do. Things like emergency planning efforts, increasing our training program, strategic equipment purchases, refreshed and new operating procedures. So lots of work under the hood. That work's been going on for, since the time that we transferred under the Power Authority, but particularly in the last year or two. And so this slide is basically showing the DART rate for last year, which is 2.66. And really, what DART is days away, restricted, or transferred. And it's used across many industries, most industries. And in essence, it's counting the number of injuries and illnesses you have while performing the work on an annual basis. And the rate is actually equalized so that small companies can compare their rate against larger companies. Okay. So if you'll notice, like the data for the canal's DART rate, as far as we can tell, has only been tracked back to 2012. But in all those years, other than 2018, which was also a decent year, the rate has lingered in the 4s and the 5s and beyond. In 2022, we incurred a DART rate of 2.66, which is, it's a 40% reduction from the 2021 rate, but it's a much greater reduction to many of the other years over the past decade. So employee safety, foundation of what we do, totally headed in the right direction. And we're making progress today on this. So that kind of level sets all the work that's going on. Next slide, please. So, obviously non-navigation season, our team is extremely busy across the state. The pump outs, as Brian mentioned, we have 8 pump outs where we dewater the lock entirely and we examine many of the features of the lock and we repair, I won't say all of the deficiencies that we uncover, but the deficiencies that matter the most. So I'll say it that way. And for the 8 pump outs, we've got pump outs in our western region at Lock 08 on the Oswego, Lock E30, E32, E34. On the eastern end of the system, we are at E17, E10, E4 and 5 on the Waterford Flight, and C6 up in Fort Miller. 6 out of 8 are on schedule. Work going as planned. Will be complete. No problem. Well, first of all, on all of them will be complete before navigation season. But on 2 of them, one at E17 in particular, which the staff that we have is stretched in there. Our Utica section is moving into a new facility in Rome. So staff is stretched between the pump out and getting the new facility ready. So there are some schedule challenges there. And at E10 in Cranesville, we are encountering lots of deteriorated concrete, much more than we had hoped to see. So that is expanding the scope of work, and there's overtime, and so we've got, I'll say, 2 out of 8 challenges, but the work is going generally pretty good.
Which lock is this here, Dave, in the photo? Is that E3? E4. E4. Erie Canal 4 within the Waterford Flight.
Yep. So the pump out work is progressed by canal maintenance staff, and there's some assistance with contractors like crane services and stuff like that. Now, we also contract out a lot of work this time of year. We have, at this point, I think we've got 26 or 27 active projects beyond the pump outs across the state. Some of them are larger and more visible, like, for example, the rehabilitation of Guy Park Manor. We've got some liner work on the Glens Falls Feeder Canal, but the majority of those projects are smaller in nature, maybe a couple $100,000 up to $500,000. And they're basically assisting our maintenance troops with work that we can't get to. Okay, so basically a ton of activity across the state. Our construction management team is chasing the contracted work and working with contractors. All's going well there. I mentioned the Rome building. Our Utica staff is going to be moving into a new facility this year. Hopefully in the next few months, the movement will start. And in terms of programming for this year, we have a capital program of $52 million slated for 2023, comprised of 82 different projects, and we're wrestling getting that off the ground right now. Next slide, please. Let's see, there's 7 functional areas inside the Canal Corporation. Asset management and inspection is one of the 7. Lots of critical work going on there in terms of the future and the state of our infrastructure and planning. But 2 things I wanted to mention is this is the group that does all the inspections of our infrastructure. So licensed professional engineers inspecting canal infrastructure, dams, embankments, locks, and so forth. This year we have about a 10% increase in the number of inspections. So we've got about 500 inspections on deck in 2023. So that program is off and running. Fleet modernization, every year in our capital budget, we've been allocating, somewhere around $3 to $4 million for equipment upgrades. A lot of the canal equipment is old, outdated, and in a lot of cases, either not as efficient or doesn't have the safety features that more modernized equipment has. So here's an example of this is actually a survey boat. And the front portion of this vessel, it actually has a hatch that we can lower sounding equipment through, and we can basically progress that along the canal, use our sounding equipment to get really good information on dredging needs. And it's also this vessel also supports our drones. We have a developing fleet of drones that we use for aerial inspections, and the drones can actually land on the roof of the cab there or on that floor over the hatch area. So survey boat, really useful piece of equipment. Next slide. Okay, now another one of our functional areas is technical services, which is comprised of real property and IT. Just two things I wanted to share there. Our real property unit, they're the ones who take care of all the work and occupancy permits statewide. And we have, if you take both of those categories, we have roughly 4,500 to 4,700 permits annually that have to be dealt with. So there's payments for all those. Okay, and the way Excella is our system of record. ACCELA is our system of record. And right now I would say it's in an archaic state. In other words, people are writing checks, they're mailing them. There's a whole, antiquated process. It works, but it needs to change. So we have a project underway that's going to modernize permits at canals, and it's going to allow customers to pay fees online. It's going to develop a customer portal where the public can speak to the right folks at canals very easily, quickly, stuff like that. So, that is underway, and we hope to have that, if not completed, significantly completed by the end of the year. And then the connectivity piece, that has to do more with internal efficiency. In other words, we've got 3 headquarter offices across the state: Buffalo, Syracuse, and Albany. We've got 8 maintenance sections across the state. We've got 50 some locks across the state, and we have other remote work locations. A lot of the locations where our team is stationed at every day don't have any connectivity. So how are folks supposed to do their job and also get training that the company provides and communicate effectively, and so on and so forth? So we have a whole under the cover effort going on at providing connectivity in a strategic way to all of our work locations. Too much to say here, but getting the entire team connected, it's a big deal, and it's going to be very helpful. And then lastly, the staffing piece. Permanent staffing is pretty much, I would say, holding steady. We have almost 440 permanent employees in the door right now. And there's, of course, always a revolving door of employees, but that has held steady for a few years now. The seasonal staff, we have, I think, 50 seasonal staff or so on board right now. It's about 15 to 20 less than we had desired. There's still some market challenges out there that we're experiencing. We're gearing up for the summer season, or the navigation season. In the navigation season, we pretty much, at least triple the number of seasonal employees we have in the winter. And last year we really struggled, and it creates lots of issues like overtime, the inability to extend hours at certain locations, and so on and so forth. So we've got our HR team, our marketing team, all working together, going after social media. There's some collaboration with the Syracuse Educational Opportunity Center, also with Capital Region BOCES. So we're trying to leverage everything we can to get people in the door, these seasonal workers. So it's a work in progress, but I'm just hoping we don't run into the challenges we did in 2022, because that really put us in a tough spot in certain locations.
Are we doing any social media advertising to encourage people to apply for seasonal employment?
Yes.
Good. Feel free to share that.
attending a lot of job fairs, social media push, also doing videos to just have testimonials about what it's like to work at the canal, and any support that others can offer is welcome.
So those you know that always wanted to live the dream, to apply to be one of our lock operators or one of our seasonal employees, right?
So that's it. Lots going on. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. Any questions for Dave on winter maintenance, pump outs, operations, maintenance?
Director Stratton, I just go back to that first slide where you were looking at worker safety, and congratulations. That's an amazing accomplishment to have that significant a reduction and seeing the downward trend. You know, our people are job one, and that is truly impressive work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. You don't really get an idea about how challenging these jobs are, and the fact that we're working on an infrastructure that's basically 100 years old. We're keeping it as safe as we can, and that's our number one goal. But these are inherently challenging positions, and particularly during the winter work. And so we're going to talk about pump out tours, and we encourage you to get out there to see them, and not only to understand and appreciate safety, but also to see how the locks work, see what engineering marvels they really are, and the incredible amount of work that they take to maintain, from maintenance and engineering and capital, in what is a very short period of time between now and when we are going to open. So if there are no more questions for Dave, we're going to speak about canal opening and introduce Communication Strategy Manager Shane Mahar. Shane, welcome.
Thank you, Director. I will start going in reverse for a couple of seconds to expand on what you both, Dave, Brian, what you and Dave just mentioned as far as winter maintenance pump outs. For this crowd that's gathered here today, our public engagement team is working on a series of tours at each of our locked pump out sites for this winter. So within the next few weeks, we'll be coordinating with Kim Orapello, and we'll be sending out an invitation to all of you. These tours will be hosted in March. They will be at all of our 8 pump outs across the system, and hopefully opportunities for you folks to come see what Brian and Dave just spoke about, the winter work in keeping that infrastructure in a state of good repair during the winter months, and what our workforce does. So invites will be coming out soon, and hopefully there's a date and location that works for you. And you guys will all be able to join us in a couple of weeks here. So with the winter work wrapping up in a couple of months here, focus is now on May, the 199th consecutive season of navigation on New York's canals. Opening day is Friday, May 19th. 7 a.m. locks and lift bridges will start to operate. We know that there'll be a whole line of boats at the Waterford Harbor on the east end, ready and eager to enter the Erie Canal. We expect commercial vessels on the canal waterways probably a week to 10 days prior. We've already had some interest from tug and commercial operators, tour vessels. In particular, in the greater Rochester region, we expect to be watered up a few days early to support some of our commercial tour vessels, the Colonial Bell, Cornell Navigation. The PGA returns to Oak Hill in Pittsford that week. And there's been some interest there in getting out on the Erie Canal and showcasing all of what we have to offer there in that greater Rochester region. So recreational vessels will enter on May 19th, but we do expect some commercial tours to be started a few days prior. So another note, not on script or not in a PowerPoint, just wanted to mention our On the Canals program. Continue to expand year-round activities out there. So despite today's biting cold, we do have winter hikes at certain locations out on the canal, and different activities for snowshoeing where there's snow, hiking where there is no snow, but lots of great opportunities to get out and enjoy the canal waterways, the trails, in some of our really iconic canal side communities. So onthecanals.com is the website. We have a range of activities up there now, And the team is building the program for the rest of 2023. We'll be launching that probably in May, right around the time that we open up and start to operate the canal system. So stay on the lookout for those updates, but there'll be a lot of opportunities this summer to get out and experience some of these free excursions that we're now offering. Director.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Friday, May 19th, opening season for our 199th season, and then 24 will be our 200th season. And then when we get to 2025, that's actually our 201st navigation season. So
Correct.
Follow the numbers. Yes, Ross.
I just want to mention that while in addition to those activities at I Love New York, we've also been promoting a lot of activity around Canal Side itself. The ice skating there, the ice bikes there are truly unique and get a lot of exposure. So we've been highlighting that in a number of blogs we've been doing. We've also been doing some early promotion for the upcoming season when we did a blog piece on vacations to plan early for 2023. One of those was Lockport, recognizing it's a big year there. So we're promoting both winter activities and looking ahead to the season.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if you do have a on the canals excursion, maybe you've signed up for one weeks ago, and there's one tomorrow. I imagine our Audubon hikes are going on, but if there's any weather related issues, might that be posted on the Canals website?
We would certainly update it, and the provider, so when you register with that specific provider, and they would notify you if there was a delay or a postponement due to weather.
We've been struggling to get snow for some of the snowshoe tours. But the hikes are still going on in full force. And then we hope to unveil a new series of On the Canals opportunities for this spring and summer season. And that's, we'll probably update folks when we get to the April meeting, correct?
Correct. Might not, we'll
tease that anyway.
We'll tease.
Any other questions for Shane on pump out tours? Shane will get you that information out. There's some here in the capital region. You want to go further west, there's some out there. Lock 17 has got the highest lift of all of our locks. That's in Little Falls, so that'll be a particularly interesting one to see, and one of our more challenging ones. But they're all interesting, and they're all not to be missed if you've never been on a pump out tour. Okay, let's get on with that. Thank you so much, Shane. Ever mindful of the of ensuring environmental safety within our canal system, as well as the adjoining waterways. Our executive deputy director, Rebecca Hughes, is back with us to provide an update on our continued work with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Lake Champlain Basin Program, and other partners to guard against the threat of aquatic invasive species, or AIS. Rebecca.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. So as we look ahead to our opening date, we're also thinking about a topic that really dominated last year's navigation season, which is the threat of aquatic invasive species. And as we've talked about in prior commission meetings, the canal system as an engineered waterway connected water bodies that would be otherwise segmented. And that does provide avenues for transfer of aquatic invasive species. And we're very mindful of that as we operate the canal system, and we establish what we refer to as a rapid response plan specific to the Champlain Canal last season. And we are looking ahead to system-wide for aquatic invasive strategies for prevention. So our tactics around the rapid response plan, and this is New York State's plan, it's something that Canal Corporation and NYPA developed in concert with DEC. It includes elements of prevention, including education and outreach for boaters and anglers, early detection, so sampling across various parts of the system at key vectors or points where aquatic invasives can spread, as well as eDNA sampling that gets out ahead of the capture of live samples, and then rapid response planning, which is our really data-driven approach to responding to advancements of aquatic invasives in the system. Next slide, Bowman. Thank you. So this is a screenshot of the press release that we issued just about a week ago in concert with our notice to mariners about the opening of the navigation season slated for May 19th. Last year, we were very much acting in response to calls from environmental organizations calling for closures of canal locks to prevent the spread specifically of a fish called the round goby that threatens to travel up the Champlain Canal and enter Lake Champlain. This year, we're starting on much better footing. We've established the rapid response plan, which is driven by this concept of trigger action response. So we're sampling and monitoring data in real time. We have situational awareness, and we use those objective data inputs to inform what actions we'll take in order to mitigate spread. So that report is published. It's available on our website, and I'm happy to share that with anyone who's interested to look at that decision matrix and how the rapid response plan is informed. But basically, we look at sampling data. At this point, the round goby still remains south of Lock C1 on the Champlain, but sampling will continue throughout the navigation season. And that gives us a really objective framework for action so that we're not reacting in a way that, might have inadvertent effects on the system, but instead we as a state have agreed upon this plan. It is a living document, so we're testing things like double draining and scheduled lockings in certain places along the Champlain that we believe can help to mitigate spread. Apologies for my crackly voice, it's irritating me, so I imagine it's not fun for anyone else to hear. But we can adapt those as we test their efficacy. So if double draining is not the most effective solution, but there's other things we can do with water releases and adjustments to our valves. Those are things that we'll test and learn throughout the season to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prevent spread. Bowman, I don't know if I have another slide or not. I do. Okay, so with that, I'll just ask if anyone has questions, but that's it for aquatic invasives. And if anyone on the phone has questions, you can unmute.
Any control of the goby being used actively as bait in so many fishery activities?
Absolutely, education and outreach is key. So we know that the canal provides this, potential pathway for transfer, but the less predictable and more common route for transfer is through bait buckets or whole water. So outreach and education to boaters and anglers is really paramount here. And the goby, for all its faults, for all the damage it can do to ecologies, it's a really great bait fish, which is why, you guys have probably seen my rubber goby that I keep in my purse. It's available in a very, accurate rubber, piece of bait that you can get on Amazon. It's a great bait fish for bass and trout fishing. But we don't want to see people using that actively for bait because that is one of the vectors for transfer. So our lock tenders will be trained on identifying the round goby, and we'll have materials from DEC that they'll disseminate to boaters and anyone who's fishing alongside the canal so that we can be part of that broader solution. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any other questions about aquatic and invasives? Things don't stop because it's the winter, because it's very cold. We're always mindful of what we have to do to get ready. And that conversation and that dialogue, I'm sure, will shift into high gear as we approach the opening of our season in May. But it's an always active along the Champlain Canal Basin. And thank you for that update. Any other questions? So that concludes our agenda items of what we're going to go into new business. I would like to ask the members if they have any items for new business. We're discussing the commissioners' new business items. Commissioner Patordi?
I don't have anything.
No. Commissioner Iacetta?
Just thank you. Happy New Year and commendations to staff for all excellent. Thank you.
We're delighted to have you full time now that you've retired and can devote all of your energies to the canal.
Thank you.
Plenty of volunteer opportunities for you, Steve. Thank you. Commissioners on screen, new business. I think I also say general business. Kim, do I also do that? General comments from other members.
Yes,
Yes, Commissioner Wiles, go ahead.
My topic du jour is the bicentennial. And I guess I'm going to change tactics a little bit and say I'm looking for guidance. The bicentennial efforts of Canal Corporation so far seem to be very Buffalo centric. They're the World Canal Conference, they're the Seneca Chief. When I have members, stakeholders in the canal community asking me, do we wait for the Canal Corporation to tell us how to go about planning for the bicentennial, or is really that's all there's going to be? I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer, but having an answer is very important to the future planning of the rest of the canal community.
I would tell them that we know that the canal exists beyond Buffalo, and no, Buffalo is not the only element in the plan. We have a huge canal system. We have 2023 is upon us, and that in fact is the bicentennial of the opening of the Champlain Canal, which opened in September of 1823. So we need to be thinking about that, and we are working well with our partners at the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. We are already talking about some limited funds, but we have other proposals that we're not quite ready to roll out yet. So the planning continues. It is ever on our mind, even though it's not a full laundry list yet.
Brian, this is Bob. You mind if I
Please,
share a
Bob.
few
Thank
comments? So Dan, a couple other things that going on. One is July 29th on the Champlain Canal is going to be some kind of bicentennial event that Erie Canalway and hopefully Canal Corporation, others will help organize. It'll be largely a paddling event, but we're hoping to expand that to other bicentennial activities. So that's one concrete thing going on in the Champlain Canal, July 29th. We are also, thanks to Ross and Empire State, I Love New York, Market New York, Erie Canalway will be developing a toolkit, a bicentennial toolkit that we can share with communities and organizations that will give us a little more consistency in terms of messaging. And Jean McKay of our office will be leading that charge, and she'll be reaching out to many stakeholders in the coming months to formulate that toolkit. So hopefully that'll help us all. And then the newest breaking news is Erie Canalway just decided to ask for firms to give us, perform a feasibility study for a larger bicentennial fundraising campaign. So I have an RFP that's being released this afternoon to look for a firm that would do the feasibility study to see, of course, if it makes sense to launch such an initiative, but that could help garner us all together and bring some more resources to the table as well. So happy to give me a call, or Jean, if you want to talk more about bicentennial activities.
Bob, do you have a ballpark timeline for this toolkit? This bicentennial toolkit?
Jean will be developing it. We just talked about this morning in the coming months. So, I mean, the goal is certainly to get it done in time by next year. So basically this year we'll be putting together a toolkit with different features. So I think I'll if you don't mind, I'll ask Jean to reach out to you and give you a direct update.
Okay. Yes.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob, for that information. We're looking forward to that and to more updates on that as you come along.
Can I just interject one thing that
Yes,
we shouldn't feel
please,
quite
David.
so bad, Dan? We're better on course than the centennial celebration that took until 1925 to really start doing any real planning. So we are at least ahead of the centennial.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Dave.
And I'm going to connect you with David, and he can allay all of your fears. Okay.
I don't want to be misinterpreted. I'm not anti-Western End. I'm not anything. I get the question, does a locality start planning for the bicentennial, or is there a bigger plan that they should be plugging into? And I don't have the answer.
I would encourage any community, any locality that would like to begin to plan something for the bicentennial please begin doing so. And we will collectively bring them into that overall effort. So please tell them to proceed with all deliberate speed.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question comment related to Dan's question comment.
Yes, Natalie.
I'm curious if everyone or if people here have read Carol Sheriff's article that she published back, I want to say maybe 2018 or 2019, all about centennial and bicentennial, sesquicentennial celebrations of the canal. It's a very interesting article, and I'd be happy to share a link out to everyone if you haven't read it.
She's got the artificial river, which is one of my favorite canal histories.
We would love to see that, Natalie. Can you please share it with us? Send it to Dan first, and then
yes,
share.
I'll send it out to Brian. You emailed the commissioners yesterday. I'll just use that same list and send out a link to the article.
Perfect. I didn't have Steve's new email on that, so we'll make sure we update it for Steve's new email.
Nick had something to add.
Nick.
Yeah, so I'm on the steering committee for World Canals Conference and the Bicentennial, as well as the
Maybe
planning.
just come closer to the mics.
Nick, stand up and talk.
Well, I'm on the steering committee for the conference and the Bicentennial, as well as the planning and outreach subcommittee. And this morning, Jean sent out the email to begin congregating that subcommittee to start talking about the planning and the outreach to the municipalities. But I wanted to just say that even though we're Buffalo centric, because we're focusing right now on developing for the convention, not necessarily for the bicentennial itself, but the way that the bicentennial planning is being viewed is this is going to be a celebration of the entire system and not just Buffalo centric. And we are beginning that outreach process and planning on what that will look like. But I know even like you mentioned the Seneca Chief, the plan is for the Seneca Chief to stop in communities along the system through its journey, both down to New York City and back.
Thank you, Nick. That was wonderful. Again, on the subject Dan has raised, any other comments on that? I know that Kim Vorsheimer has got had her hand up, has a question, comment. Unmute, Kim, and speak.
No, I don't have my hand up, Brian, but thank you. I'm just thinking about it for Brewerton, how it would participate.
Wonderful. Well, it's good to have you here. No question. Okay. Any other comments, either from commissioners or members of the public tuning in who would like to talk about other things other than the topics that we have just covered?
Peter
Brian,
Wiles.
this is Jeannie. Oops, sorry.
Peter Wiles. Okay. Let me recognize Peter Wiles, and then I'll come back to Jeannie, I think. Go ahead.
Yes.
Peter.
The Central New York Boat Show is coming up later in the month. Rebecca, is there printed material that would be appropriate for distribution at a Coast Guard Auxiliary information booth that our group is going to be manning? And if so, could you get in touch with me on how to get some?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll follow up with you on print materials from us and maybe from DEC so that you can have some information on boating and angling and aquatic invasives as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else had their hand up or wanted to speak? I'm sorry. Cal, was that you? No? Jeannie. Okay.
I just wanted to quickly mention, Brian, related sort of thematically to the whole Erie Canalway, Recreationway effort. There's been some regional planning going on, and I just wanted to make you aware. We had put together a regional recreation and heritage plan a few years ago in 2017. It was adopted by the 5 counties. And basically, we have been working to create, to inventory and plan regionally a bike touring corridor that links all of our heritage sites across the central New York region, including a few intersections with the Erie Canal. Basically, it's it plays off of the Empire State Trail going across east to west across the state, and we pick up where our bike touring corridors would run through rural areas and connecting communities and historic sites and festivals and events and things, running north and south off of the Empire State Trail. So I just wanted to give everybody the heads up if anybody's curious about that. We are planning it locally. We've already planned about 34 miles of it locally. So it's, and we're working toward funding implementation of these bike touring corridors. It'd be great. You know, as somebody who grew up on a sailboat that travels up and down the East Coast, we used to keep a bicycle on our boat, and it was a great way to transfer from boat to land and see the sights. So I just wanted to mention it.
What a great way to grow up. That sounds wonderful. I'm sure that the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor, Bob, I'm sure Gene would like to know about that, to share within your communication. Shane, I'm sure we'd like to share that within social media and make sure that our trails managers know about it. So Jeannie, if you could send that to us, that would be wonderful. And we'll make sure that we
absolutely
can
yeah, I do have materials on it, and I can do a presentation on it if ever that makes sense too.
Parks and Trails New York would probably like to hear about that also, I'm sure. So trails are the big thing, right? Who else had their hand up or wanted to make a comment? We're coming up on, we're past 2:30, and our commissioners have got ethics training that we have to get underway with shortly, but we don't want to cut anybody else off who would like to make a comment. Trustee, would you like to say anything for the good and the welfare?
No, I just appreciate the dialogue as I'm listening to everybody, the communications challenges across all the agencies and organizations that have a little finger on the canal is clearly something that has to be paid attention to. And so I think it's a good opportunity through this group to begin that communication. But other than the fact that we're working together and we're moving forward, that's pretty exciting. And thanks for all the dates. I just got them all into my calendar. But enjoy the rest of our weather. Those of us that are in Central New York, let's enjoy. My sister emailed me while we were on, and she's out of power. So she's on her way over here because her house has been cold for a day, over an hour. So
well, stay safe.
Help us all.
Make sure you stay warm, safe, and stay together. We do have we're supposed to convene next in early April, but I wanted to remind everyone that the New York State Tourism Industry Association annual meeting in spring meeting is in Oswego, April 19th through 21st. And we can get that information out to you if you'd like to attend all or part of that conference. We're going to be giving a lot of information about outdoor recreation and the canal, and of course that is on the canal. So lots of interesting information coming up at the NYSTIA Spring Conference in Oswego, April 19th through 21st. There's no other discussion items. I would like to thank Kim Orapello for helping us organize today's meeting. Kim, thank you very much. Bowman Patel for running our technology today. Bowman, thank you very much. Of course, honorable members of our staff, Counselor Pete Casper, even though we didn't have any legal confrontations today, thank you for being here.
Always a pleasure.
To make sure that they don't happen. Okay. If there is no further business, I will move for an item, a motion to adjourn. I think the next, before you do that, Thursday, April 6th is our next tentative hold. Is that correct, Kim Warren?
It is.
So Thursday, April 6th is our tentative meeting for our next Canal Recreationway Commission. We will endeavor to have that in person at an exciting location to be announced, but we will get back to you. Okay, give me that motion to adjourn. Commissioner Patorte, seconded by Commissioner Iacchetta. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for being here, everyone. Be safe through the cold, and we will see you in April.